Dana Gillespie is a British singer, songwriter, and actress known for her work in blues, folk, and rock music since the 1960s. She began her career as a folk artist, later becoming a successful blues performer and collaborating with musicians like David Bowie. Gillespie is also an actress, having appeared in films, theatre, and television. Her connection to Sathya Sai Baba began in the 1970s when she became one of his devoted followers. She has spoken publicly about her spiritual experiences with him and often credits Sathya Sai Baba's teachings with shaping her personal and artistic journey. When did you hear about Sathya Sai Baba for the first time, and what drew you towards him?
When did I first? Well, I think I first saw a photograph of him when I might have been about 15 or 16, and I never forgot the picture when obviously the hair and he was covered in big garlands, which of course he stopped taking after a while. But it must have been about 40 something years ago. A family who are like my second family, it's the Rajmata of Jamnagar, Navanagar. They have 3 daughters, and one of them was publishing the book on Sai Baba called Man of Miracles, was publishing it into English, and she gave it to me. And the moment I opened on page 1, I knew that this was the answer for me. And within 3 weeks, I jumped on a plane, and he then ignored me for 12 years. I used to come every year for 1 or 2 times. I'd always sit at the back. I was quite content to just see even if one hair was sticking out of a pillar or a tiny bit of orange, I was content, because there were thousands of people even 45 years ago. And I thought that was it. But after about 12 years of being ignored, obviously I was wanting an interview, everyone does. I've since learned that interview is far more important. I thought that there's all this marvelous music, and I'm a singer, so I think bhajans should be taken to a wider audience. So that's when I started to record bhajans. You know, I'm a blues singer, as you probably know, Anirudha. I don't sing bhajans for a living. But I did my first recordings. This was, in a way, early days of CDs, and I put it on a cassette. And I thought if I could offer it to him somehow, but I was always sitting at the back, maybe he would bless it. And then I would print it as a CD. And I tried to get in the front every day. And my very last day, suddenly I found myself plonked in the front. And this is because I had smuggled a cassette of these bhajans inside my clothes underneath here. And because you're not meant to take things inside the mandir area or the cycle went hall. And he came straight over and he said to me, the singer, give me the cassette. Nobody on this planet knew that I had a cassette tucked in my clothes, and nobody knew my name, and nobody knew I was a singer, because I used to go there alone. So from that moment on, 12 years later, I was completely hooked.
Yeah, nice to know that. Your performances are mesmerizing. I saw some of those performances in front of Sathya Sai Baba. He was admiring you from the beginning itself. On his 70th birthday, the song...
Well, the 70th birthday was curious because, you know, he'd just taken my first bhajan CD, and I kind of made it trancey so that Westerners or, you know, people who don't know who he is would like this kind of music. And suddenly I get a call saying, yeah, he'd like you to come and sing for the 70th birthday. And I thought, well, it must be bhajans. And I was told, no, he wants your Western music, blues. So I turned up with my blues musicians, and there were loads and loads, I mean, many, many people. And from that time on, he asked me every year to come and sing, either on his birthday or maybe a month or 2 later, depending on when I was there. But for most of the birthdays, and then the 75th birthday was incredible because I had my full band with me. This is what maybe you saw on the screen. If you punch in Om Shakti, which is a song I wrote for the birthday, and the camera turns around and you see over 1 million people. Everyone I've shown this to, they go, wow, you know, they can't believe, I'm talking about Westerners, by the way, they can't believe that such a huge crowd could be at such a thing. And of course, I was still wearing in those days shalva kameez. Well, actually, I was wearing with a dupatta on me because I was still very Western. But Swami used to come backstage before each performance and check that my clothes were pinned correctly. But at the 75th birthday, he gave me 8 saris in 1 week. So that was my signal that he wanted me slightly more feminine and more in line with how the ladies of the ashram function. I mean, I've learned that years ago. I can now get a sari on in the dark and I never need pins or anything. But in those early days, because that was what, 25 years ago, he wanted me to be more representative.
Dana, how did your relationship with Sathya Sai Baba change you as a person, the person that you are off the stage? And over the last so many decades, has the bonding with Sathya Sai Baba evolved or has it been constant?
My life changed completely for the better. In fact, I've got to say, I feel sorry for anybody that doesn't know about him. Even just knowing or hearing the word, his name, will uplift people, even if they don't realize it. For me, I realized, I'm never alone. He's always there with me. It's a very subtle existence. If I'm in trouble, if I've got to go and have an operation or an important concert or something, I think of him, I ask his help inside because he guides me, he leads me. I can't say that he sits right there. Well, I'd like to think he sits right there, but it's a different way of functioning, you know. And I come from the rock and roll era in the 60s and 70s. I hung out with David Bowie, the Rolling Stones, Pink Floyd. All these musicians were people I grew up with, and suddenly Sai Baba's there. A lot of my friends, when I came back saying the first trip, this is amazing, I've seen something incredible, they took one look and said, oh, what is that? Michael Jackson's brother? And, what is this? Are you crazy? I said, no, but over the years, they've seen how constant I am. And after the first singing at the 70th birthday, he then used to call me in quite a lot to talk to me. They always said, he doesn't see women on their own in interviews. He does. He used to see me sometimes on my own, or sometimes with my 80-year-old mother, which was amazing. I started to bring her. So he said things to me, and he gave me incredible things. I won't talk really about that, but he said things to me that really changed my life. And he said, for me, the most important thing that I feel I must share with everyone is five words. Because he said to me, do you want to ask me a question? This is when we were together alone in the little interview room. And I know that most people would go in with what I call a shopping list of questions for him. Swami, will my daughter get married? Can you find a husband? Or Swami, should I sell my business? Or Swami, should I do this or that? I never had any questions because I have no questions. If he's there, what on earth do I need to ask anything for? But when he said to me, do you want to ask me a question? I had to think quite fast. And I said to him, Swami, well, what is the meaning of all of this? Meaning life. Why? What is life? He said, just these 5 words: play the game, be happy. Now, that is how simple life can be. Even when you've got the most terrible troubles, you learn the most. And, I'm 76 now. So I've really lived. I started singing in 1965 professionally. I've made 74 albums. Music is my life. And every note that I sing, I know comes from him because he gave me my voice. He gave me my life. And in that respect, I have to be careful how I talk about this to people who don't know who he is. And sadly, not enough Westerners get a chance to know about Swami because they have a lot of Indian musicians and everyone in India knows about him. But the West needs to know more. So at one point, he said to me, I'm going to give you spiritual diamonds and you will take them all over the world. I actually thought I'd gone crazy, or maybe he'd gone crazy, because what was he doing giving me spiritual diamonds? But within a few months, he had me going all over Russia, all the Russian-speaking countries from Siberia to Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Azerbaijan, all these countries, Australia, America, because he's turned me into a really good public speaker. And for that, I thank him, because unless people talk about him and mention the incredible miracles that he has done, people won't. I think people need to know. But he's always said, you don't advertise, you be an example. And I've been in, many countries where I've seen vibhuti pouring off his photograph, or Amrit has been pouring off, or the smell of Amrit has, I've seen these miracles, but it needs somebody who's really experienced this to tell these stories. Otherwise, it can not be so believable. And I'm pretty good at this.
You're very good in that, Dana. And your parents, Dana, your father was a doctor. He passed away, I think, around the time Sathya Sai Baba was celebrating a 70th birthday, if I'm not wrong. Around that period
Yes,
is
I'm
what
very
my
bad at. Yeah, it was my
yeah,
father that
yeah.
bought me my first ever ticket to go and see Swami. He said he felt too old to go, but he was also very friendly with Rajmata's daughter, Mukunda, who sadly just passed away herself. And he said, "No, you go and you come back and you tell me all about it," which is what I did. And my mother used to go regularly with me after a while because they saw the change in their daughter. They understood me.
Yeah, that's what I'm coming to, Dana. I thought your mom has visited Puttaparthi ashram with you so many occasions. How did your parents look at your devotion towards Sathya Sai Baba, which you've come to briefly? How, I mean, were they okay with it, or they had some apprehensions there? How did they view it, basically?
My parents had no apprehensions because they know me. They know me. And when I first came back, they knew that if I had seen something special, and this was 40 something years ago, then they knew I wasn't talking nonsense. They knew that something had happened. And the more I came back, especially to my mother, I would tell her stories and she became more and more interested. With my father, he was anyway a philosopher, a very great, wise man. And Swami once said, while talking to somebody else, he suddenly turned around to me and he said, "And your father was a very great soul." Well, I always knew this because my father was a well-read man, but they were I was born to fantastic parents who were very understanding of this. And I sometimes think that we choose our parents in order to be born to learn what we have to learn. If I had been born to other parents, they wouldn't have been so understanding. And sometimes you have to go through incredible troubles and pain in order to get to the point where Swami will take you to the next level. It's not an easy thing to explain to many people, but I know that when I've gone out and given talks to people, they can feel the vibes. And of course, when I've given talks, I sing in between. I explain where the songs come from. I mean, I'll do a few bhajans, but there's so many wonderful Indian bhajan singers that basically, all I can do is take it to some Westerners, but the word spreads and the Indian bhajan singers are fantastic. And I've been lucky enough to work with incredible musicians and like Srinivas, the mandolin player who's no longer there. I was in Puttaparthi, he came in the studios, he was on one of my albums. I did some music of Jagjit Singh, which I can write. Jagjit said I could take any of his songs to work with because I put Swami's message, but English. Obviously, I can't write. I have written a few Sanskrit bhajans, but I have to be careful. I know full well that Hare Hara Hare is completely different words. If I get one letter wrong, I will be judged. So my first Budgeon CD, I called myself Third Man. I didn't want people thinking, "Oh, Dana Gillespie, let's go and let's listen to some blues." And then they'll go, "What is this stuff?" But after 3 albums of calling myself Third Man, I went back to just being Dana Gillespie. And I think through music, and Swami loved music, you can really lift people to another level. And one thing I must say, that when I sing, I'm always swaying about and singing, especially on stage, not like the Indian singers, which we all know sit like, usually they look like rabbits in the headlight of a car. They're terrified to move, especially in Puttaparthi. He didn't want that. He wanted people to swing and be happy and smile and be joyful. And one time when I was worried that perhaps I was going a bit too far with my moving about, Swami came out onto the men's veranda and said, "Look at Dana. She's always dancing like this." And he did my movements exactly, in fact, better than me. And from that moment, I was sort of accepted for my rather peculiar Western way of singing. So I did quite a few concerts there. Also, Swami was very clever. He used to put me on and Parveen Sultana. So you've got two women on the birthday from completely different worlds. And I mean, we didn't sing together, but we were on the same night, and it was a very good message of blending East with West. And my heart belongs to India anyway, and so my heart belongs to him. You know, he always used to say, "Glorious Bharat." I agree, and I go every year, and every year you'll find me in Mumbai, enjoying my life. I love the city. I love all over India, but it's thanks to Swami, and wherever I go, if I see a car number plate that's got, I don't know, 108 as its number, or if I see a taxi driver who's got, Shirdi Sai Baba dangling in his taxi, then I feel good. It's little messages wherever you go. And I'm really happy that The Week, your magazine, is going to dedicate the magazine to Swami's 100th, because millions across the world, not just in India, I know because I've seen them all over the world because I've been sent there by Swami. COVID changed a lot of things and a lot less traveling, but I'm getting older, so probably just as well. But if somebody said to me, "Listen, do you want to go and talk about Swami in Alaska rather than, I would go, because I'm crazy like that. I go wherever he asks me.
Dana, Sathya Sai Baba, yeah, is known for his miracles. Many say he has brought out people from different kinds of crises. You've mentioned as a child that when you got seriously injured once, you jumped into a river, and there was a force there that brought you back. And there, on another occasion, you mentioned on how you were about to board a flight and you were not well, and some force within you said that you should not be boarding it. So was it Sai Baba, Sathya Sai Baba doing that for you? And have you seen any of these miracles in person?
Well, yes, it wasn't. I didn't get on the flight. It wasn't because I wasn't well. I'm ashamed to say it's because I wanted to have some clothes made at a tailor in Kolkata in Bombay. So I went down to Indian Airlines. "Can you change my ticket?" And this was when computers were very new, and they said, "No, I'm sorry, you'll have to go to the airport." And I said, "No, I'm just going." And the whole of Indian Airlines, the offices were completely closed. Well, they were there, but there was one man only sitting behind a terminal. He said, "The computers have been down for a week. We can do nothing." And I said, "I'll just sit here." And I asked Swami, I said inside, "Please, Swami, can you get a computer going so you can change my ticket to go one day later?" Suddenly, the bells rang, all the computers switched on, people came from the back areas, and the man looked at me and he said, "I don't know what you've done, but I can change your ticket now." I went to the tailors, and the plane I should have got on crashed in Bangalore, killing the Birla family and many other people in Bangalore. I call that a miracle. Now, somebody else might call it a coincidence. I don't know. And when you mentioned about me when I had a very bad accident when I was 5, does this mean you've read my memoirs, my book?
Actually, I saw it in an interview, Dana, where you mentioned clearly about it. Yeah, I think
Well, I've
you
written
were
my
interviewed by
memoir.
the Sathya Sai Baba organization. I think one of those interviews where the Sai Seva organization interviewed you.
Okay, well, actually, in my book, I've gone into much more detail because the book is called "Weren't Born a Man," and it starts with the rock and roll years. I mean, I went through some wild times, and the important thing about Swami is transformation. He transforms people. I was no angel when I, was in the music business. You can imagine the 60s and 70s and 80s were as wild as well can be. But this is for me the miracles. He transforms bad into good. He transforms dust into gold in human form. So yeah, when I tried to kill myself age 5 because the pain was so terrible, I threw myself in the river, in one of the biggest river, well, the biggest river in Germany, the Rhine, which is fast flowing, and I didn't know how to swim. And under the water, suddenly I've got to say, this being in white lifted me up out of the water, took me over the path, over a fence, and plonked me in the garden from which I'd come. Now, I don't know. I wish I could have said the being was in orange, but it wasn't. It was in white. And there's no way I could have got out. I mean, that is a miracle. And not only that, my head was so badly smashed up, I couldn't talk about this for 3 months because my head was swollen like a pumpkin, like a what. So my mouth was vertical, not horizontal. I couldn't speak because of how I was damaged. I can look back and say, attribute it to Swami now, but I didn't know about him till later on. But yeah, I was caught in an avalanche when I was 15, was buried, should have died. I'm a bit like a cat with 9 lives. I'm not sure how many of my 9 lives I've got left, but I know that Swami saved me for me to do a job. My job is to communicate and tell people about this extraordinary existence. I mean, I know some people say, oh, he's just a magician. You know, when you see vibhuti and amrit pouring in other countries, that is not a magician. That is beyond explanation. I know that I've even had silly things when my car has had a burst tire in the middle of nowhere, and I don't know how to change a tire. Somebody came along, some long-haired freak came along and helped me. Another time when I had 1 minute to catch a train connection, otherwise I'd have been real trouble. Suddenly the train is delayed. Now I would say, thank you, Swami. Other people would say, oh, well, it's just a coincidence. I happen to I see him all over the place. I mean, I used to go to bhajans every week. I'm slightly lapsed because when I'm traveling, I can't always get to a bhajan center. And COVID kind of changed a lot of things. But without him in my life would be nothing, really nothing. I would just exist, but I would have no joy. I mean, I wake up every morning happy. And Swami has always said, if anyone gets angry or it doesn't live it like this shortens their life. I have chosen to be a happy person thanks to his teaching. So I go out on stage sometimes with pain. I'm not so young, things are falling to pieces, but he gets me through the day. And he's given me the most amazing necklace, which I can't even hold in my hand because it's solid gold. But he came out and he had his hand like this, and he opened it, and there it was. He said, "You wear this. This is to protect your voice." Now so I wear it when I'm singing, and I know I've got a lot of heavy concerts. And I've been in Uzbekistan, in Tashkent. I had no voice. The theater was completely full. And I thought, this is really going to be a test, Swami. I have no voice. I can't even speak. I'm croaking like a frog. And I step outside and suddenly the voice comes back. Now, this is a miracle. It happens daily. You know, he is my life. He's the most important thing actually in my life. And I wish I could be doing more talks around the world, but people, you know, you can only go when they ask you. So I wait, and when they're crazy enough to ask me, off I go.
Then, what do you have to say to those people who are curious about Sathya Sai Baba, but they tend to be skeptical still?
Well, even Swami himself has always said, be skeptical, be judgmental, be inquisitive, have some inquiry. You shouldn't just go, yeah, that's everything, and I'm saved and it's going to be marvelous. Because life doesn't really get easier. It just makes you handle it better. You handle it more with joy. So I would say to people, yeah, if you want to be skeptical, yes, but try and search out people who've been there, who've known it. Try and make a few changes in your life. I mean, the first thing when I first saw Swami from miles away, this little orange dot, the first thing, and he literally spoke to me inside my heart or my head, give up eating meat. I was not going to India thinking of being a vegetarian. But I thought, well, I might as well obey him because he's just asked me to do this. This is the least I can do. And now the thought of killing a beautiful cow or any animal just to feed me, to sit on my plate, no, thank you. So I don't know how people should read books. They should be curious and be skeptical, because to be skeptical means that at first you are thinking about him, and the thought starts and then it turns into a reality. And I can tell you, you can be skeptical all you like, but if your mother or father or child was lying ill and you don't know who to pray to, I would say try Sai Baba, because he is the one that will come and answer your prayers. But you have to take that first step of faith in order to ask him. And most people, a lot of people don't know. Even in the Bible, and I was born and brought up a Church of England, it says in the Bible, ask and you will be helped. Knock and the door will be open to you. If you don't ask, if you don't knock and you don't inquire, you're not going to find out anything. So be skeptical, and hopefully at the end you'll be cured of skepticality, if such a word exists, and you'll be in love. I mean, life is love. It is he's always said love is the most important thing. There should be no enemies in anybody's life. And you look at the world today and everyone's fighting each other, but it's completely bonkers and crazy and mad. If you follow Sai Baba's teachings, the problems are there, but you handle them better.
It's
Got any
been
other questions,
14.
Anirudha?
Yeah, it's been 14 years since Sathya Sai Baba left his physical form. How can his teachings be relevant in today's times, Dana, according to you?
How can the teachings get to people? Is that what you said? Sorry, there was
Yeah,
a
yeah,
little
yeah.
difficult, I would say, more difficult in a way. I'm very full of admiration for people who believe in him, who have never physically seen him. And this is how it is now. I mean, the archives, there's loads and loads of film footage, but there's nothing like the feeling when you see him from afar and he walks. He used to glide, he would walk almost like he was floating, and there would be this smell of him. You could feel his presence. And I don't know, actually. I think the Sai Baba organization are doing their best. There's a large groups in America, all over the world, and then of course in Puttaparthi is the main stronghold. I just consider myself incredibly lucky that he pulled me to him when he was alive. But people believe in Jesus and Krishna, and they haven't maybe seen Krishna or Jesus. So I think it will take time, but it's slowly growing. Goodness cannot be put down. Love cannot be put down. It has to win in the end. Wars and fights and things, eventually, by the time they've killed lots of people, of course, but eventually love will win on everything, and people won't be angry, and people won't be wanting something that somebody else has got. The jealousy and greed that goes on, people wanting money. Swami can cure you of all that. Just be happy, and then things start to get better. And his teachings, I don't know how they're going to carry on now, but it's growing. The Sai organization is there. Let's face it, as you know, people like your prime minister have been to Puttaparthi. I mean, in the old days, all of them used to come and visit. I remember Abdul Kalam came one year, and he'd said that that's when he was president, but he'd said that years before he'd worked in a science lab or something, and Swami had met him, and he said, "Hello, President." And Abdul Kalam thought he was completely crazy because he was just working away. There was no way he was president, but it happened, 25 years later or something, he was. So I think there'll be enough people still, but we're getting older, that can still tell stories about him. And I think singing bhajans really lifts up the heart. Listening to bhajans, it may sound corny to perhaps the Westerners who don't understand, but I think people should make an effort to try and go to Puttaparthi or go to Shirdi, or go anywhere, but go somewhere that's uplifting and learn to love everyone. And most important, the ones that do bad to you, they need the most love, because they wouldn't have done bad if they were educated or illuminated by Sai Baba's love. I consider myself one of the luckiest people on the planet, because he showed me his way of thinking.
And that's quite evident in your interactions with him. Dana, there was this Australian writer called Howard Moffett who has written so many books on Sathya Sai Baba. Like you, he was talking about Sathya Sai Baba to the world and mentioning about what makes Sathya Sai Baba so special. He drew parallels between Jesus Christ and Sathya Sai Baba and said they are both known for their miracles, and they tell their devotees to believe in God and have trust in God rather than themselves. So, do you find any truth in that?
Well, I think everything that Howard Murfitt wrote in that book is incredible, and I would encourage anyone, if you have any spiritual interest in trying to work out how this world functions, read Man of Miracles. I mean, I think it must have been written about 50 years ago now.
50 years ago, yeah.
So, but it's timeless. And this is the book that when on page 1, my hands were sweaty, my heart started thumping. I did not stop reading that book till I got to the end. It is an extraordinary book. And you can tell when truth is truth. Now, comparisons with Jesus, for sure. Comparisons with Krishna, for sure. All of them have, they've done extraordinary things. So it seems if you look back in history, about every 2,000 years comes, really an avatar. But Sai Baba is a Purna avatar. He's beyond I have met people. For example, I was in Samarkand once with a group of Sai devotees. I'd gone to do a concert, and a small boy came up, and we were holding a picture of Swami, and he said, "Oh yeah, I was playing football with this guy yesterday. They don't have television where we were." But he recognized the guy. I've met people who've met Swami in America. I met a guy in Azerbaijan, up in the hills, an old Sufi who said, we went to give him a photograph. He said, "I don't need this photograph. Sai Baba has been to see me many times. I've got them on my wall here." Now, these stories are quite hard for most people to stomach or to understand, because it is beyond our belief system. We're not as intelligent. But I just say, yeah, bring it on. I'll accept all miracles, because I have seen truth walking on this earth, and nothing can take this away from me. Even if everything is taken away from me, I will still be left with Sai Baba. And that is such a relief to walk through life knowing that you are not alone. If he sits in your heart, you're never alone. So I would say there are many comparisons to all the religions, but we're lucky to have him in this age, and in this. I mean, God knows we're heading we're in the Kali Yuga. You only have to open a newspaper, but how we can only get out of it through love, especially of your enemies. Everyone that you don't like, try and love them, because otherwise nothing is going to work in this world.
Because you were born a Christian, so that I thought the comparison with Jesus, there could be some rationale behind it. Why people think on those lines.
Well, yeah, I mean, because I was born in England, but if I'd been born somewhere else, if I'd have been born in India, I would have been a Hindu, or I would have been a Sufi. I've always had very strong Sufi feelings. Music is the thing. Music is my God, actually. And I must say, I hear certain types of music and I feel Swami's present. He's always said if you can't see him in every blade of grass, every leaf that falls, you have to see the majesty of this whole creation and know that it's come from some force. I see Sai Baba as what I call a tool. You could cry if you don't believe in anything, and let's say in an accident and you've fallen over in a mountain and you need help. You can shout, "Oh God, please help me." But if you don't know where to direct this message to, it'll go there more direct. So I use Sai Baba as my direct tool. If I need help, I use him. I'm ashamed to say I don't really use Jesus as much, because I wasn't around then, 2,000 years ago. Whereas I've seen Swami, and I've seen all I need to know. In fact, I could probably lay down and die tomorrow, and I'm okay, because I have seen what I came on this earth to see. and it fills my heart.
Sai Seva, Sathya Sai Central Trust and Sai Seva organization, they're doing remarkable work the world over.
Yeah.
Have you got involved in their work, or have you helped them in any manner?
Well, yes, because going to all these Sai centers all over the world, when I've been asked to go, that's how I can help. I did once go out onto the plantation and pick peanuts with them, but I'm not very good at that. And it's what you're good at. The Sai organization, whenever anyone if they call me up and say, can you come and do a bhajan session? For sure, if I'm free, I'll go and do it. Each person can do what he's capable of doing. I know that Swami has done the water projects and food deliveries, just amazing. I don't do enough. None of us do enough. I feel guilty that I don't do enough. And, I'm very moved when my godson, who's called Achintya, who was christened, his name was given by Swami, his family, they're out doing so much, feeding the poor and the hungry. And every week I'm doing nothing, but I'm going to concerts to sing. But what I can do is be happy, even with people that may be trying to cheat me. Be happy, because if I can be happy, it will rub off on other people. And maybe 20 years along the line, somebody might think, maybe I shouldn't have done that, So I can only do my bit, my little bit. But the Sai organization is incredible, whichever branch it is. And there are many the people all over the place. Going out and doing good is the most important thing we can do. And it sounds like just words. It's not just words. It has to be lived and felt. And really, you have to feel and do it with love.